An interesting new update just dropped about an hour ago, related to the Cologne 2026 stickers. Basically, it's saying, I'll just read it out loud here. So, today we're shipping the ranked series of Cologne 2026 major stickers, new stickers that indicate a team's final standing in the design. And you can see here what they mean. Like, Falcons won the major, and so it says champion, and it has a number one here. Fallen was part of Furia, and they were in the grand final, but they lost, so they have the number two here. Thunder from Down Under finished 28th, etc., etc., etc. So they're basically acknowledging here the original dynamic pricing system determined the relative interests in players and teams, but it didn't produce reasonable prices. I'll interject here and just remind you guys, I don't know if you remember, but when the major stickers first dropped, you probably remember hearing a lot about how the Donk Gold was at over $1,000. I think originally it went over 2,000, and so people couldn't even buy it because of the Steam Wallet $2,000 cap. And so it brought it down to 1,700 as a hard limit in the store. But anyways, these days it's down to 200, but still $200 is like a lot for a sticker, and I'm sure you can agree. And so here Valve is basically admitting it didn't produce reasonable prices, and in a way, they're basically sort of acknowledging that, like, yeah, they didn't sell that well. And you've probably also heard that a lot of teams have been basically complaining about the fact that they made a lot less money this major than in previous majors. So here's the interesting part. These new stickers that they're releasing today have a lower price, but with the same relationship between players and teams as the event series stickers. When I read this, I actually didn't know what it means. And I'll explain it in just a moment. I do just want to call out here that they're also actually giving us a date for when the shop will be available until September 29th. So today is July 28th. So basically 8 more weeks, 2 months of sticker purchasing and presumably souvenir crafting. And then presumably both of them go away on September 29th or September 30th. So, what does this mean with the same relationship between players and teams as the event series stickers? Well, so yeah, interestingly, when you visit the shop, it becomes much more clear. You can see here at the top, it says ranked stickers have a fixed lower price based on their event series stickers. So let's look at Donk as an example. The normal Donk sticker, if we go here, this is the original gold sticker, right? And it is basically just under $200, $193 as of today. Now, when we go into Donk's Gold sticker over here, and look, here are all of the stickers, right? And you can see that there's normal, there's holographic, there's gold, all of them. They just all have this little indicator, like Paravision here, has a 16 right there, right? Anyway, so Donk Gold here, you can see it says it's only $13 and it has this little padlock icon on it. I think what this is basically saying is for the next 8 weeks, for the remainder of the time that we have this in the store, it will not move. It will always be $13.63. I find this interesting in two ways. First, $13 is tremendously different from the 200 that we just saw. So my first takeaway here is, wow, this actually is basically a sale, a sticker sale, a discount. It's something that a lot of people were speculating on, like, will they or won't they do a sale? Because with before they introduced these, a lot of people were saying, well, how would you really execute on being able to do a sale, a discount, when you have a dynamic pricing system? That doesn't really make sense, because if you discount them but it's still dynamic, then they will just go back up, right? Well, the way they did it is they just made new stickers that aren't dynamic, but there's still a price difference between them based on the original price difference that existed for these original ones. So I think that's really interesting. Now, I think this is probably a really good thing, right? Because a lot of people are now going to be able to get the stickers that they want without having to, resort to spending more money than they can maybe afford. And as a result, professional teams are hopefully going to be getting more money than they would have gotten without this update. But I do want to talk about the other part of this, which is some people maybe did fork out the $200 yesterday or 3 days ago to buy the Donk Gold. Maybe they are just a super fan and they're an adult, they have a job, they can afford $200 to maybe reflect how much they love their favorite player. Maybe. And now, today, this update drops and they're thinking, oh my God, like if I had just waited a couple days, I could have gotten this for $13, and there was no announcement that anything like this was going to happen. How should I have known? So one of the interesting things here is if you look at all of the stickers, they're square, right? And if you apply them to a gun, there's actually no way to make them circular. You can't scrape away the square part. You can still scrape the background and just make a clean team logo like this, just like you can with the original ones, but you can't actually make it circular like the originals. So you can't buy the cheaper one and like basically pretend that you got the more expensive one. I don't know really if this is enough to appease the people who paid the premium for the originals. But what I will say is, I remember when the originals came out, a lot of people, while criticizing the way that they costs and the way that Valve was charging people for it, they really were complimenting the overall look of the stickers and how they really kind of pay tribute to the cologne and the cathedral look and the glass and all of that stuff, right? Um, I don't know how much of that praise had to do with them being circular, but certainly overall, people really like the look of these. The new ones, like we discussed, um, I think do still retain 99% of that good look, but they are square, right? And so when you look at someone's sticker, if it's square, you're going to know that they paid less, and if it's circular, you know that they paid more. Does it matter? Maybe, maybe not. Beauty's going to be eye of the beholder here, right? Personally, if I had spent a lot of money on a circular sticker and I was upset about the fact that more people can get them for cheap now, I actually don't think that this would be enough to appease me. But I am not one of those people that would be upset about this. I think overall this is a good update. The second thing that I think is interesting here relates to souvenir crafting. So if we go over here, I just want to show how much the Nico Grand Final souvenir craft costs today on a covert weapon. So today, with an 85% discount, it would cost me $658 to do this craft. I continue to be surprised at how much this costs. And you can see that this is based on the Falcon sticker being pegged at 170,000 tokens. That is $1,700 with no discount. And this has been pegged there pretty much since the first week after the major, like the week the major ended. Same thing with Furious team logo. And then Nico's has been fluctuating a bit, but it's currently at 98,000 tokens, $987, I think is what that means. What I'm interested to see is whether or not the volume of purchasing that happens with these new stickers, like if a lot of people start buying, for example, let's say a lot of people start buying this cheaper Falcon sticker for $60 instead of buying the $1,700 one. Again, if you like, before this update, if you wanted a gold Falcon sticker, you would need to spend $1,700, right? And now you can buy it for $70, okay? Now, so my question is, if a lot of people start buying this one, is it going to bring down the price of this one? Like, this one is still dynamic pricing, right? So is this one's price going to go down when people start buying this one? And if it does, that means that then crafting this souvenir will become cheaper. Now, my theory is that it actually isn't going to impact the price of the original ones, meaning When people start buying this cheaper Falcons champion, I don't think it's going to affect the price of the original one. And that goes for also the autograph stickers. We don't know for sure, but because these don't participate in dynamic pricing, I would speculate and presume that if their own price doesn't change, then they also don't change the pricing of the stickers whose price does change. Does that make sense? Because again, to recap, the way that the old dynamic pricing system worked is if tomorrow everybody stopped buying Falcons and every single Counter-Strike player bought Mongol stickers tomorrow, then what would happen is that the Mongol sticker would go up a lot in price and the Falcons one would drop. They'd kind of make up for each other, if that makes sense. And so what I'm saying here is I don't think that these new ones will participate in that kind of one goes up, the other one goes down system. Um, so to conclude, I think what this means really is two to three things. The first and most important thing is for most players, you're now going to be able to buy pretty much like the sticker of your favorite team and or favorite player for reasonable prices. You want a Donk Hollow? Well, do you have $4.97? Hopefully you do. And if you don't, just play for a couple weeks, get a few case drops, sell those cases, and now you'll have the money to get your Donk Hollow, right? The second thing is that I don't think that this is going to make souvenirs cheaper, for better or for worse. And so, is that good or is that bad? A lot of people are criticizing how expensive it is to build souvenirs, and this system, this update, I don't think is going to change that, but we'll see. And then the third thing, it's a minor point because I actually don't think it really is that big of an impact, is the fact that there is a visual difference between these cheaper ones and the more expensive ones. And so if you are someone that spent more money on crafting a super dynamic looking purple Thunder Down Under hollow craft, but you had to spend maybe $100 for four of them, or I don't actually know how much they used to cost, and now you feel bad that like other people can get them for less. First of all, I'd say maybe don't think of the world in that way. Just be happy that you have it, and don't think so much about the fact that other people can get it for cheaper. Like, the fact is you already have it, and that should make you happy. But if you do need something to make you feel a little bit better about it, just know that they don't actually look identical, and these are square and not circular. But again, is that really that big of a difference? I'd say no, because they still look really, really good. So yeah, anyways, I thought this was a pretty interesting update because, well, basically because it acts as a sticker discount, a sticker sale, which is something that a lot of people were going back and forth on as to whether it would or wouldn't happen. And as a whole, I think the kind of the skin scene didn't think that we would get one. But look, here we are. We got one in a bit of a creative way from Valve. And honestly, I really do hope that this will be a win-win where players get to buy cheaper stickers and that teams are able to get, close the gap, or at least get closer to closing the gap on the revenue difference between this major and the last major. Anyways, yes, please comment and let me know what you think of this update.